Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Fantasy Fellowship show here. We got Jesse on the line today. We're going to be looking at DraftKings SportsBook. We have our Week 10 player props special episode here. We're going to be probably giving you guys a list of 5 to 7 bets on the week this week. So we're going to get into receiving props, rushing props, and passing yards. And Jesse's going to help us kind of navigate and look at some of the stats and kind of figure out where we are liking the matchups here. So welcome this morning, Jesse. How are we doing?
Good morning. It's a little foggy outside, but it's a great Saturday. Great day to have a day. Is that a new little intro mix?
I did a little extra thing to it, a little tweaking. Probably another one for next season too, but I just added a little wrinkle to it.
I like it.
But yeah, we're going to be hopping into a screen share here. We got a lot of things to look at. Let me just pull this up. So we're using DraftKings SportsBook. I want to just actually start with on the fantasyfellowship.com. We do have our prop bets tab here. You click into there and you can actually see our record from all the season. Everything, wins are green, reds are losses, of course. But on the season right now, we're 26-43. So we're going to shoot for 7 props in today's episode and try to get us to a good even number of 50 there. So we'll continue doing these kind of risky picks. We're picking players to score touchdowns. Jesse hit on Gabe Davis last week. I didn't hit on Jordan Davis, but back in week 8, we did hit on Albert Okwuegunam. So this is just a new kind of thing we're doing here. So we're going to give you guys 5 plays that we like on the website, and then we'll each do a feeling risky big money special pick here. So we're going to actually probably start with the wide receivers and the receiving props here. This is probably one of our more favorite ones, and we tend to bet the overs on a lot of these receivers here. And I guess one thing for a resource here, I'm just looking at FF today, and you can actually see the defenses and how many receiving yards they do allow. So, of course, Seattle is the worst team against the wide receiver position. They've allowed over 2,000 yards already just to wide receivers, and they have a good 300-yard lead on the next team. So the Falcons are on bye. We're not worrying about them. The Jets are also on bye, and the Titans have already played. So the Seahawks are the lone team here that we're going to be trying to pick on. They do play the Rams, so we'll probably talk about a few of those options in that game. And then I guess other defenses that we want to target against the receiver are going to be the Giants. So we'll look at the Eagles players. And then the Dolphins down here. I think the Dolphins play the Chargers. So we'll look at some of the, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams overs. But yeah, let's kind of just hop in here, back over to DK. And because we mentioned those teams at the top here, let's look at the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants game. And we got, let's see, for receivers, they don't have any Giants receivers listed here. The Eagles receivers, we're looking at Jalen Reagor, 41.5, Greg Ward, 33.5. And that's really it. Fulgham at 61.5. Any of these wide receivers you feeling good about against the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants is interesting because Bradbury seems to be like the one guy there that's kind of like doing some good things. But I mean, do we think that Fulgham's really good enough to be like getting Bradbury coverage on a regular basis? I mean, they might put him on Reagor a little bit. They might move him around.
Well, what's cool now is that we're in week 10, so we do have, especially in these division games, we have data from a game that happened already earlier in the season. So back on Thursday Night Football, I think this was week 7 or 8. Fulgham goes 5 for 73. Tight end Richard Rodgers 6 for 85. So this might be a really good Dallas Goedert opportunity here. The rookie John Hightower 1 for 59. Greg Ward 5 for 42. So no Reagor in this one, but technically number 1 receiver Fulgham hits 73, and Greg Ward would have been the number 2 that day. I think Deshaun Jackson got hurt in that one. So you see 42 and 43 here, but then Richard Rodgers at 85. I mean, I think there's a legit chance that you see Dallas Goedert hit 41 or 40.5 here. You're going to probably see Fulgham come really close or over 61.5. And then, I don't know, I'm kind of interested in Jalen Reagor down here at 41.5. I think they have some few plays for him. And we didn't really see them connect on a deep ball the week before the bye. So I'm thinking Reagor might be kind of a fun play here. The odds are not really boosted. They're still at negative 112. But I guess
I think the one that stuck out there for me was Jalen Reagor. Just looking at the last game, Deshaun Jackson had 3 grabs for 34. He didn't play the full game, so I mean, you think he stays in that game, he probably gets 4 to 5 catches, and he's hitting over that 41.5.
Right, and he's probably going to, be the number 2 receiver in terms of snaps. And I do think Alshon Jeffrey's playing in this one. I don't know if he's going to factor in much right away into the snaps, but he's practiced fully all week. He looks pretty good. So you got to figure Fulgham's on the outside. You're going to have Reagor kind of moving around, slotting in kind of inside-outside kind of game. And then we'll see this rotation of Greg Ward and Alshon Jeffrey in there. But the other guy here that we haven't talked about yet is Miles Sanders. And he's at 17.5. It's his first game back. It sounds like he's ready to roll. And I did notice here when I hit the RB tab, you can also filter, it shows you the receiving numbers here. And if you had to guess the team that's allowed the most yards to the running backs through the air, it's going to be the New York Giants. So they're allowing 503 yards on the season so far. If I just do the math real quick, 503 divided by 9. That's 55.8888 yards per game to the running backs through the air. And they're just giving Miles Sanders a really low bar here of 17.5. People are hitting this at minus 129 already. But this one feels like the one that's going to hit.
Yeah, minus 129 too. Like if you're betting, if your units are only like $20-$30, like 129 to 112 is not like a huge
right.
difference.
So I mean, you put in $20 into that, you're going to win $15.60. So that's not a terrible return, and that's probably one that's probably a free square at this point. And I wonder if I hit refresh in like another 10 minutes if that's going to even increase. But Miles Sanders is probably the safest bet here. Not the greatest odds, but it's a free. You bet $20, you're going to win $15.60. And then just out of curiosity, if you had to put one of these lines here, are you taking Fulgham, Reagor, Goddard? It sounded like you were into the Reagor line.
Yeah, Goddard's interesting, but I think Reagor is the one who's like, he's been coming on over his last couple of weeks. I think that one. I mean, the Sanders one makes the most sense if we're going to pick one from this game, but I like the Reagor one. I like the receiving options.
Yeah, I would probably if we just kind of figure $20 as one of our units, I would probably do the $20 on Sanders, and I'd maybe do like a half on Goddard and a half on Reagor. Those ones kind of feel safe to me. I would imagine between Goddard and Reagor, one of them is going to hit, maybe both. So like we did say here, Richard Rodgers, 6 for 85 against the Giants here. I did want to look quick at the Giants against the tight ends here. Let's see who has allowed the most reception yards here. So the Giants are actually solid here. They rank 17th, about 408 yards here. So if we divide that per game, let's just see, divided by 9. That's about 45.5 yards per game to the tight end. So the Giants, I mean, Goddard could easily get over that. He's probably going to be one of the leading guys in targets tomorrow. So I'm interested in that. And then since we're here, Evan Ingram, 37.5. Do you care about betting on the Giants tight end at all?
Probably not. I mean, he's a guy who's been. They're trying to get him the ball more. So I mean, that is definitely. If you watch their offense, it's a focal point. They're trying to get him active and involved.
And he did go 6 for 46 back in week 7, 9 targets. I'm not sure. Golden Tate's probably going to play, but Darius Slayton down here with 3 targets in that game. That's kind of an outlier, so we might see a little bit more evened out targets here.
What's the deal with them not having the rest of the Giants receivers? Is there an injury concern for one of these guys?
I don't know. Let's take a look at the practice report real quick. I know Sterling Shepard, he's been limited all week, but he's kind of been limited ever since he came back with his turf toe injury.
Okay.
They do have Golden Tate questionable here. Football Guys was kind of joking that this might be like a fake knee injury here, that he's kind of saying, F you to the Giants here and popping up with these knee injuries. So this is something to monitor here. If he's out, I mean, he's really only getting 2 or 3 targets per game anyway, so it's not really going to affect the other receivers that much here. But for the most part, I think the Eagles is where you're going to want to place your bets. Consider this Miles Sanders, 17.5. Just out of curiosity, let's just look and see how many times Miles Sanders has been over that number.
It's been a weird year for Miles Sanders, I'll say that much.
I did see that the Eagles have been one of the worst teams throwing the ball to the running backs. They have one of the lowest efficiency rates and picking up screen plays here. So he's been over 17.5, 3 games out of 5, which is not a terrible situation.
Still a decent clip.
That's a pretty good spot there. I don't know what happened in this Baltimore game, only 2 targets, but this other outlier here too is against Cincinnati. He saw 8 targets, only caught 4 for 12. That's a really low number here. So I think the odds are in our favor where you see this 12 yards per catch, 15, 9.5. It takes him 2 catches to get to the 17.5, so I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple other teams here that we did say we want to target at the receiver position. So we're looking at the Seahawks, giving up easily the most points and the most yards to the receiver position. So we're coming down here to the Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. We'll probably have to look at the Jared Goff over for yards. I'm feeling like I'm going to want to take that. So we have Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's not even on the menu here this weekend. That's kind of weird. Let me just hit refresh on this.
Is he also questionable right now? Is that why?
It was. So let's just look at the Rams report here. So Cooper Kupp, limited Wednesday, Thursday, full practice on Friday. So he should be fine. They'll probably upload him in there tomorrow morning, I would assume.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, I guess for guys here, we have Robert Woods chilling at 59.5, Josh Reynolds at 45.5. We do have a tight end here, Tyler Higbee, 29.5. I don't see Gerald Everett on the list either, so that's a little disappointing. Or we could roll with Darrell Henderson at 13.5. I guess we really only have Robert Woods and Josh Reynolds, which I think we'd like both of them.
Yeah, I think both of those are good. I think the Rams are good at utilizing wide receivers, and the Seahawks are better at covering wide receivers. So this just seems like a matchup that McVay is going to be able to take advantage of, and I think we're going to see a high-scoring game here.
So how do we feel about Josh Reynolds this weekend? I know he was a popular guy on my waiver wire program this week. The last 4 games, really, he's been kind of coming on here. He's been over 44 yards in 4 straight games, and I'm seeing this line here of 45.5, and it is against the worst team, allowing receiver points here. So if we consider he's already kind of hitting this line against some decent, Washington football team, they're the number 1 team against wide receivers. San Francisco, quality defense. Chicago, quality defense. Miami, they're coming on as a defense. So if he's doing this against some of the best defenses right now, it feels like this Josh Reynolds might be one of my favorite plays of the week.
Yeah, I think that 45.5 is low, too low for the game. He probably only needs 7 targets, if that, to get there.
And just because the way Seattle plays, their games tend to get on the fast track and relatively quickly. You look into what Buffalo did to them last weekend. They just came out and gassed them. So there should be a high volume of passing plays in this one. And already because Cooper Kupp is dinged up here, if anything happens to him, I think Josh Reynolds is the easy pivot here to get the most looks. So I'm still intrigued with Robert Woods at 59.5. He's at minus 124. But the one that makes it to me like a slam dunk is going to be Josh Reynolds. And then looking at the Seahawks side of things, we always have this Tyler Lockett versus Dk Metcalf game. I was kind of curious. I wanted to see when these guys played last year. And I'm curious if Jalen Ramsey got a game in against Seattle last year when he was on the Rams.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We do see
it's a totally different DK Metcalf though this year. That's for sure.
So they played the Rams in Week 5, and then it looks like Week 14. So Week 14, Jalen Ramsey would have been on the team. So he only let Lockett get 4 for 43 in that game. So let's take a look at what DK did. Week 14 last year, DK Metcalf 6 for 78. He caught all 6 of his targets. So that's probably the hot hand there. And then I don't know if you saw it, but there was the quote that said Jalen Ramsey is not going to just sit and shadow one player or the other. He's going to be mixed around. So at 65.5, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf 78.5. Anybody stick out?
Man, I got that DK line pretty high, huh?
He's second in the league in receiving yards. So people are getting wise here.
Can't be sleeping on it.
I want to say he's been over that mark every game but one. Just this 23-yard game. Otherwise, his low total has been 92, 93, 95.
Basically, Patrick Peterson's the only one who's gotten to him.
And the odds are in your favor, I would say,
right,
for DK Metcalf here.
Yeah.
And, if we're expecting the Rams offense to be able to have some success through the air, you're still going to see Russell Wilson target DK Metcalf probably 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So, but I think for the most part, I'm feeling the best about Josh Reynolds here. I'm going to put him on the bill. And I just want to click back onto our guy, Miles Sanders here. So those are probably the 2 ones that we're going to have on the website for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
See here. Do we care about, I think the Vikings were against the receiver here. Do we want to look at the Chicago Bears receiving options?
My guess is since this is a Monday nighter, they probably don't have that loaded in yet.
Yep. So then the next worst team, Falcons on bye, Cowboys on bye. The Cleveland Browns here, I guess this is fantasy points. If I filter by yards, it should give us a little different form here. So we talked about the Giants, Cowboys, Miami Dolphins, as good as they've been. they have been allowing quite a bit of receiver yards, and then the Browns are here. So let's just see what the Dolphins got going up against them here. So the Los Angeles Chargers, you got Keenan Allen at 73.5, Mike Williams 50.5. That's really the only receivers you could bet on. Jalen Guyton seems a risk to me, but Keenan Allen 73.5. Let's just take a look and see what he's been up to the last handful of games here. It seems a little low for Keenan.
I would agree. I mean, he gets big numbers, man.
He's kind of been really boom bust. He's had 3 games over 100. He had a 96 in there, but his low points are pretty low. But I guess ever since Herbert took over, he's been 96, 132, 62, 29, 125, 67, and 103. So he got hurt in that game, so we'll throw that away. So he's got a floor of about 62 to 67 yards. And he went up against Tampa Bay and Denver in those ones. So going up against the Dolphins here, in a game where we could expect I'm expecting kind of a shootout style game here. Both rookie quarterbacks, we should see a lot of mistakes from the defenses on both sides. Keenan Allen at 73.5. We're interested in Mike Williams here at 50.5.
Gosh, I mean, I think you get to tell me to take one to be Keenan Allen. I think that's just a guy that's going to get. He's pretty much hitting double-digit targets. He's hitting his yards. Mike Evans has been hot though last
3 of the last 4 games. I don't know what happened in this Jacksonville game. 1 reception, 4 yards, but 3 of the last 4 games he's been over 81 yards. Yeah. So if you think about 50.5, I mean that's the odds are all minus 112 for these guys, but 50.5 for Mike Williams. I'm kind of interested in that. I'm assuming is that going to be Xavier Howard on him?
Yeah, I think so.
Aaron Jones practicing in full, no Jamal or no Howard on the injury report. So they both have starting cornerbacks healthy. I'm not really sure if the slot cornerback is any good for the Dolphins. I don't know. Do you know if they feature one guy there?
Who do they have? Do they have? I know they picked someone up. I don't know who it was. No, they got a good defense. I mean, their defense is coming on strong though these last couple weeks.
So is it Igbenogene here?
Yeah, I think it is. Yep.
So, I don't know. I think I might be more interested in looking at Justin Herbert's overline than kind of betting into either of these receivers. Maybe Jalen Guyton's the guy at 24.5. He does that in one play sometimes.
That's a one-play kind of guy. Mike Williams at 50.5. I mean, he's playing well. So, I mean, there's no reason to see why he shouldn't be able to get there.
Well, I'm going to just check it. We'll consider it. And then you got, what was that other team here? The Cleveland Browns going up against Houston. That's probably going to be a pretty good one. I don't know if I saw any of those.
Yeah, they don't have everything loaded in yet.
They must be waiting on some injury reports. So that's a little frustrating. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hop over to the passing yards, and then we'll get to the receiving or the rushing yards later. But in that Houston, they don't have any of those games at all. That's annoying. So I guess we'll stick with the Chargers-Dolphins. Justin Herbert, 277.5. We hit the over on this last weekend. Are we feeling it again in this one?
Feels like another game where he should be able to get there. I there's no reason why he shouldn't. He's averaging more than that a game, and the Dolphins are giving up a pretty good amount of yards per game. So
I'm just going to do the math real quick and see what this is. 2,200 divided by 8. You're looking at 275 per game here, so that's right on the dot. Let's take a look and see who they've gone up against. So you got, I guess we'll start at the top. Cam Newton, 155. Josh Allen lit him up for 415. Minshew, 275. Wilson, 360. We'll skip TJ Beathard and Jimmy Garoppolo. Flacco, 186. The last 2 games, Jared Goff, 355, and Kyler Murray, 283. So sitting at 277.5, I think I would put him kind of somewhere, in this Kyler Murray.
Golf here, yeah.
I mean, if Minshew can hit 275, I think I feel pretty good about Justin Herbert keeping things rolling here. And let's just pull up Justin Herbert's numbers for the last few games.
You have no reason why he can't break that 280 barrier pretty.
So he's been over it every game except one, man. He got 264 against the Saints. In that game, he did throw 4 touchdowns. So at this point, I feel like that's one of the safest overs to hit.
And that was his low point on completion percentage of the year, too. So if he just gets that completion percentage up 2 more attempts.
Yep. And we did talk off the air about the Chargers getting back Brian Bulaga and right guard Trey Turner. So that It should help the team run the ball, be more efficient, maybe stay on the field more, run more plays, and it's going to give Herbert just that extra, even if it's a half second to a second, to hit Mike Williams or Jalen Guyton deep, and that could just make our day, with one of those big 70, 80-yard boom plays. So I'm just going to check Justin Herbert for now. We'll consider him once we get a full list here. And then there was a couple other quarterbacks that we wanted to look at. Carson Wentz at 250.5 against the Giants. This one jumped out to me when I was looking at it. How do you feel about that one?
That seems pretty low. I mean, he's got his arsenal back. He's been playing. The Eagles are just a weird team, man. Like he should be playing better. Like we should be seeing Carson Wentz improving as this year goes on.
So here's the case, I think, for Carson Wentz. Back in Week 7, the dude put up 359 yards on this team, and they're putting him at 250 in this game? What the F? So Alex Smith comes in last week, throws for 325. You add on Kyle Allen, 62. That's almost a 400-yard game from the Washington football team. You're looking at Tom Brady, 279.
Carson Wentz for 5 weeks. Have they ever not given up 250 yards? I mean, Mitchell Trubisky.
That's combined 250.
Yeah.
The Jared Goff game here and the Mitch Trubisky game, those are the only games. I guess Ben Roethlisberger too at 229, but it's been hot the last few games here. I think this is one that I'm going to, as far as receiving overs, I mean, especially you're getting, this team's coming off a bye, healthiest they've been in a while. I think Lane Johnson coming back as well in the offensive line.
Lane Johnson's
you're getting Miles Sanders, which could boost the receiving totals for Carson Wentz as well. So you're getting Sanders, Fulgham, a healthy Goddard, healthy Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey. This seems like a pretty good spot. I'm gonna actually let's just check Carson Wentz here, but I feel more confident about Carson Wentz than I do about Herbert, Mike Williams. That's probably the one that I think feels the best so far.
Yeah, if we're taking a passing over, I'd take Carson Wentz over Justin Herbert.
And I mean, we got Daniel Jones here at 234.5. Just out of curiosity, I want to see what he was doing. Actually, we had that pulled up here before.
It got me thinking I should be flaring Wentz up in fantasy football this week.
Yeah, do you have Wentz in a couple quarterbacks?
He's sitting in the free agent pool right now.
What?
And I got Ben Roethlisberger plugged in as my starter.
Who could you cut?
Well, I could cut Teddy, but Teddy's been pretty good. Teddy's got Tampa Bay, but then he's got Detroit and Minnesota the next 2 weeks. So I probably want to hold Teddy.
Yes.
Teddy, I could cut Boston Scott, but he's my Miles Sanders insurance. And then Ben's got Cincinnati, Jacksonville next 2 weeks. It's a tough situation, but Wentz feels kind of like a nice play this week.
Yeah,
maybe I'll fire him up in DFS.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the spot for me. Again, he threw for 359 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he even rushed for a touchdown against the Giants back in Week 7. And then on the opposite side here, we see Daniel Jones throw for 187 yards. That was the game where he did the big 80-yard rush or whatever it was and just fell through the earth. But Carson Wentz, that one feels pretty good. And then let's go ahead and look at, I guess, any of the – let's just start at the top here at the quarterback passing yards. Aaron Rodgers, 279.5. Jake Luton, anybody – this game could be done before halftime. Who knows? I don't really feel comfortable saying Aaron Rodgers at 279.5.
That's tough, too. This is technically another one of those win games that we have to be watched out for.
And then Jake Luton actually threw for over 300 yards against the Texans last weekend. And I'm pretty sure the Packers are going to be without Jair Alexander and second cornerback Kevin King, which could be good news for DJ Chark. And I think Laviska Shenault's also been already ruled out. So you're looking at DJ Chark, you're looking at Keelan Cole, you're looking at Chris Conley, maybe some tight ends getting into that. But 224.5 seems kind of low in a game where they're probably going to have to throw a ball quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking for that DJ Chark line, but they don't have any Jaguars receivers up. And DK's – they're starting to push their props out later. They're probably losing money on these props.
Yeah. So I'm kind of comfortable saying I'm not interested in this game, even though Luton's numbers here are pretty low. I can't. Give me the Carson Wentz over instead of Luton's for sure.
Yeah.
Got Tampa Bay here. Teddy Bridgewater, 269.5. Tom Brady, 286.5. I did want to point out this game. We already have a game where these two played back in Week 2. And Teddy Bridgewater put up a ton of yards in this game. He threw for 367 yards in this one. This was the game where Christian McCaffrey kind of left at the end of the fourth quarter. Mike Davis comes in, and basically all in one drive, he gets 8 for 74 through the air.
My gosh.
Again, Teddy Bridgewater, 367. Tom Brady, 217 in this one. They just ran the ball quite a bit and pretty efficiently. That was the game Leonard Fournette kind of, emerged in there at the end of the game.
Right.
But Teddy Bridgewater and these receivers, DJ Moore had his highest output of the season with 120 yards. Robbie Anderson, 109 yards. Mike Davis, 74 yards. If you combine Mike Davis and Christian McCaffrey, that's over 100 yards to the wide receiver or to the running backs here. So if we're interested in Teddy Bridgewater, basically they have him knocked down 100 yards from what he did back in week 2. So that's becoming kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting game to look at, to see like how does Tampa Bay bounce back from that absolutely brutal defeat. We're going to see a high scoring game. I'm sure Tom's going to want to be scoring, so Carolina's going to have to be matching that.
So since we're on the topic here, I just clicked over to the receiving overs here. Robbie Anderson, 71.5. Mike Davis, 35.5. Why is that so low?
That seems pretty low to me.
All right,
DJ Moore seems low too. I know Curtis Samuel's coming on strong, but DJ Moore's still good.
Now that Curtis Samuel, it's been 4 weeks in a row. I think he scored at least 3. Teams are going to have to start focusing on him more. And now that DJ Moore's kind of settled into the background, it might be another DJ Moore game. He's already had success here at 54.5. I would say for the most part he's been over that. I would say more than probably 6 times or 5 or 6 times on the season already. But if you're taking one of the overs here, Mike Davis at 35.5 seems stupid low.
Yeah, his season without Christian McCaffrey, he's probably hit 35.5. Maybe missed it once or twice.
And as good as we believe Tampa Bay's defense to be against the running backs, they do allow the 6th most yards to the running backs here, 417 yards on the season. Let's just do the math real quick. Divide that by 9.
Yeah, look at the Bucs. You don't rush on them. They have almost as many receiving yards.
And they allow a lot of receptions here. If we filter by receptions, you're going to see them the second most I guess both teams, Panthers and the Bucs, they are the worst teams allowing receptions in this one. So we might like Leonard Fournette in this one too. But I did the math real quick on there. The Buccaneers are allowing about 46.3 yards to the running back through the air, and we know Mike Davis has no competition behind him in this point. So I think this is going to be on the website for sure. Mike Davis, 35.5. I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah,
and then
I like that.
The opposite side here, you see the Carolina Panthers, 63 total catches here, 428 yards. That's even worse than Tampa Bay. So if we're expecting them to allow about 47 yards to the running backs here. You got Leonard Fournette down at 20.5. Ronald Jones, 16.5. It's kind of a tough bet. Do you feel confident in either of these guys?
20.5 for Fournette seems really good. Ronald Jones at 16.5 is interesting. It's just the fact of the matter is Arians is kind of one of those guys who just he holds grudges at.
It's being a jackass, man.
Yeah, I know. Free Ronald Jones.
God dang it.
Free Ronald Jones.
It's very frustrating. But if we look quick at what Leonard Fournette has been doing in his game logs here, I'm just curious. I think he's been over 20.5 for the most part. So the receiving numbers here, 41 last weekend, 19, 47. Not sure what happened in this Denver game. I think that's the one he got hurt in. But the last 3 games here, he's been able to put enough numbers here, 41, 19, and 47. I would assume that he's going to continue to see the 6, and 7 targets, and especially in a game where we think it could be high scoring. Leonard Fournette seems a little low at 20.5.
Yeah, it definitely seems a little low in a game that there should be points flowing.
So I think I'll consider Leonard Fournette here. If I'm going to take one, though, I feel the best about Mike Davis for sure. And then let's hop back over to the pass, because I think it kind of works good for us to talk about the passing yards. And then if we're interested in the passing overs, then we'll pop over and look at the receivers. So we already talked about the Eagles-Giants. We're looking at the Bills and the Cardinals. We haven't talked anything about this game yet, but we see Kyler Murray, 274.5. That seems a little high. But then you got Josh Allen at 299. And after what he did against Seattle, he was over, 415 yards against them last weekend. And just before I show any research here, does any of these numbers feel good before we look at that?
I feel like Murray's been – I don't know if I love the numbers, but Murray's been hot lately. And this game, I remember looking, it's got the highest over-under right now. It's actually been run up to 56 points, which is –
And I think I don't remember where I was looking. It might have been somewhere on Pro Football Focus or PFF, but they said that this is going to be the fastest-paced game of the whole weekend. It features the two of the best teams in total snaps and offensive plays. So this got potential to be a barn burner out in, I think this one's in Arizona too, so we don't have any weather concerns.
Yep, that is correct. So
Buffalo, they are allowing basically almost 2,300 yards on the season so far. If we did the math real quick, 2,279, divide that by 9. They're looking at 253.22 yards per game here, so they're projecting Kyler Murray to go over that. And then on the Cardinals side here, we did mention Patrick Peterson's going to be playing in this one, but I believe they're going to be out their second quarterback, Drake Kirkpatrick. I think that's correct. So let's see, 2,125 divided by, we got 8 games there. So Cardinals are allowing about 265 yards and a half there per game. So we got Josh Allen at 299. That feels a little high for me. I don't know if I'm comfortable in either of these passing overs, but like we said, it's going to be a very fast-paced game. And let's just hop over to the receiving odds real quick and see who we like there.
Yeah, the Diggs Patrick Peterson matchup should be a fun one to watch, just from a football standpoint.
You got Diggs at 78.5 there. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I would assume he's going to be on him for the most part, which makes me interested in John Brown, 47.5. Yep. I think that one seems a little low. We saw John Brown dominate last weekend. It took him a little while to get healthy in the middle of the season, but he looked really strong last week against – I mean, I know it's Seattle, but that's what you're supposed to do if you're good against Seattle. So 47.5 seems low. Any thoughts on Gabriel Davis, 23.5? He put up 71 yards last week.
That was a fun one last week versus Seattle. It's just, one of those things where you just target guys against Seattle. It doesn't matter who the receivers are. If you believe they're talented, they're going to get work against Seattle. This week against Buffalo, against Arizona, a little bit tougher matchup, but like you said, their second corner's out. So it could be another spicy Gabe Davis week at 23.5.
23.5. I mean, we talked about we call him Miguel Evans. He's baby Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's it. We got to get that going. Miguel Evans.
So I'm going to type in Gabriel Davis' name here, and we'll just see. So the number was 23.5. Let's see how many times he's been over 23.5. So definitely last week. Then he went 3 weeks without going over that. But back in week 5, over, week 4, week 3. So we went over 3 times there.
He did it on one catch versus Las Vegas. It's like,
yeah. So I don't know what was happening here, especially because I think John Brown was kind of dinged up in those games. But last week against Seattle, a team that we expected this to happen, he goes 4 for 70. So he's got he's got a nice yards per catch this season at 14.5. I could see him doing this in just one play. So this is more of a riskier option here, but I could see it paying off.
Yeah, it's definitely risky. I mean, Cole Beasley, now that John Brown's healthy, it's kind of hard to trust between those two, like which is going to be the guy that Allen's going to more often.
I guess because we expect Stephon Diggs to get the Patrick Peterson treatment, in the games where it's been typically a little bit more tougher for Josh Allen to find players open, that's when it's been a Cole Beasley game. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a good opportunity for Cole Beasley here, but I think I'm kind of nervous. It feels like we should want to be all over this one for prop bets and DFS, but I'm having a really hard time thinking.
I think I like the under on this one. I don't know why. I'm getting the vibe. I'm getting the same vibe that this is going to be one of those like
the points unders.
It's going to be like a 17-21 or 17-24. Or it's going to be I don't think a team. I could see a team not getting a 30 in this game.
Okay.
I just think that the Arizona defense sets up well. Josh Allen needs Diggs. I mean, he needs Diggs to have that big game. So
I also see Buffalo's defense being a good matchup against Kyler Murray here. I like the speed of their linebackers. They have Tre'Davious White, who should be on DeAndre Hopkins, and I think they have good safety play too, which could limit Christian Kirk and some of the the deep shots that they do down the field. I have no clue what to do with either of these teams' running backs. Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, that's a timeshare. Kenyon Drake practiced all week, limited.
I wish we had a Chase Edmonds receiving prop. That's what I wish we had.
I think they would add it tomorrow if they see that Kenyon Drake is in or out, but he practiced limited all week, so it's likely that Kenyon Drake's going to come back in and just mess up the whole snap counts.
Right.
So I don't know, man. This Bills-Cardinals game, I want to have something in it, but I don't know if I can recommend anything strongly. I'm just curious real quick at the rushing props on this one because we got 2 really good running quarterbacks. I'm assuming that's Josh Allen there at 33.5. Let me just refresh real quick.
Yeah. 33.5 is.
So yeah, Josh Allen 33.5. Zach Moss 37.5. That's plus 101. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to look and see how these teams are against the running backs this year. Who's allowing more?
For some reason, I have no strong conviction on this game right now. And
so the Bills are allowing the 6th most rushing yards here at 912. It's just unfortunate we don't know about Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds yet.
Right.
And the Cardinals, they allow the 14th most rushing yards at 795. That's almost 100 yards per game.
We should like these running backs.
Yeah, if we click into this, I mean, last weekend they played the Miami Dolphins. I really don't know if we can get any information out of this one from the Cardinals. And then week 7 against Seattle, we see Carlos Hyde go for 68 yards, Chris Carson 34. The week ahead, we see Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard 49 and 31. Le'Veon Bell hit 60 on this team.
Corey's gonna hit 30.
Yeah, so teams are like the lead back is able to have a decent outing here, and I mean, I've been telling people the last couple of weeks that Zach Moss has been getting more snap counts. He's been getting more touches. And at 37.5, let's just see what – I think Moss struggled last week in the total yards category.
Yeah, I wonder if people are just kind of seeing that game against Seattle and they're thinking it's going to be a similar game to that.
But the game plan for Buffalo was like right on point. They knew Seattle couldn't cover them, so they just threw the ball a ton. You see Zach Moss with 9 carries, 18 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, if he's going to get between 9 and 14 carries in this one, I feel pretty good about him hitting his yards per carry of about 4 here. So 9 carries times 4, that would put him right at 36, which would get him really close here. So you're betting on him getting over 10 carries at this point?
Do we think that's going to be there? I don't know if that's strong enough.
I don't know how to take this game, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It feels so weird. Like we want to fall into it, but maybe the better idea is to kind of pivot and kind of fall into some of these Eagles overs here. Josh Reynolds, maybe Bob Woods. Look at Justin Herbert's line here. Mm-hmm. I think we'll move on from that game. We don't really have any strong feelings. Houston Texans, Cleveland Browns. They just popped in Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson here, so we could probably look at some of those receiving overs here. But they finally got Baker Mayfield at a low number here of 204.5. I don't think we can take on that anymore.
This is, you know why this is so low? It's another weather game here. The winds are supposed to be 25 mile an hour sustained.
So just out of curiosity, I don't think I'm a Baker low all that season.
That's an interesting one too, because I wonder if that's a combination of the weather plus Nick Chubb back. So now they're just thinking back to the roots.
So they did just upload the receiving overs here.
Nice.
Jarvis Landry at 49.5. He would be the one guy that should lead the team in targets. Austin Hooper does return this weekend. He's at 27.5. And if you think about the weather in this game, I would bet that Austin Hooper, he might be the best receiving play from this team. And I think, the last few games before he had his surgery, he was actually playing pretty damn well.
That seems pretty low.
Let's just pull that up here. I don't really feel comfortable about betting on tight end overs, but his whole season. So 15, 22, 25, 34, 57, 52. So if you're telling me he only needs to hit 28 yards, he's done that in the last 3 games here. And it took him a little while to get rolling, but if he sees, the 6 to 10 targets, 5 catches, I think he can hit that pretty easily.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for sure.
I like that one. On the flip side here, we did talk of this game being a weather issue, but you got Duke Johnson, no David Johnson this weekend. So Duke's at 27.5. That one seems like one that could potentially hit pretty easily. Will Fuller chilling at 54.5. Brandon Cooks 54.5. Any of these Texans players catch your eye?
Yeah, these Texans receivers, there's really not like one guy that I look at and say possession guy. Randall Cobb is the one. So 31.5 is kind of an interesting line to see if you can kind of get some catches racked up. So this game, Houston at Cleveland, sustained winds 25 miles an hour plus, stronger gusts up to 50 miles an hour. It's gonna be a lot of dink and dunk with a lot of running the ball, which we know Cleveland likes to do anyways. Houston might not be able to do it just because it's just Duke Johnson. He's not a guy that you feed the rock to, This
game really favors Cleveland, I think, this week, especially if they can get Nick Chubb back into 15 to 20 touches right away.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, with all that being said, are you interested in taking some of these unders, or are those just too low of unders?
Yeah, I mean, Cooks and Fuller at 54.5 each. They've been close to or on that number quite often. You know, this is the thing. It's an NFL team. They're looking at the weather. They're seeing, okay, we're probably not going to be able to chuck the ball as deep as we want. So how can we alter our game plan?
So Baker Mayfield's been under 204 yards in 5 of 8 games this year.
I think I still got to put something on it.
So I'll click on Baker just because it's been a very generous prop bet for us all season.
I've only lost it once. I think I've lost it one time this year.
Yep. And I guess moving on here, we kind of covered most of these overs here. Denver Broncos, Las Vegas Raiders. Do we have any good feelings about how this game is going to go? We got Derek Carr chilling at 264.5 yards and Drew Lock sitting at 254. Drew Lock's actually been playing really well lately. I mean, I don't know if he's playing like good football, but he's been getting good numbers for fantasy at least. So he could be the guy to hit on the yards here.
It's fun for fantasy. It's definitely a divisional game. So I usually always kind of take divisional games like grain of salt as far as like how much performance I expect. These teams know each other, a little bit better than they would know another team. But that said, the Broncos have been playing. I mean, as far as offense goes, they've been putting points up. They've been scoring fantasy points. Lock's been putting yards up.
And so we got the Broncos allowing about 2,035 yards here. What is that per game? So for Derek Carr's purposes, Broncos are allowing 254 yards per game right now.
Right in the dot.
Yep. And then the Raiders, for Drew Lock purposes, the Raiders are allowing 273 yards per game. So I think if we're feeling one, it's got to be Drew Lock here. And if I pull up what Drew Lock has done just in the last few games, it seems like I've been kind of harping about this for a week. I watch Football Guys a lot. They got Cecil Lammey on there, who works for Denver. He covers a lot of their radio programs and some of their media stuff. But he has been saying that the coaching staff has been basically telling Drew Lock that Jerry Jeudy is open, KJ Hamler is open. Take some of this easier, the quicker routes that emerge, and you could be, leading a better, more efficient offense. So we see the last 3 games here. 313 yards, 248, and 254. This is a pretty good matchup for him. Do we feel, at 254 and 248, that's kind of his floor, I believe, somewhere in that range. So it seems like it's got decent odds to hit this 254.5.
Yeah, the fact that he only did it once and it was against Atlanta, who, I think Atlanta's probably one of the bottom 5 against QB passing yards. It's another one of those games where, I feel like it could hit. Could be one of those games. Could be a fun game. Could be a high-scoring game. I'm pretty sure the over/under there's relatively high. Yeah, 51.
I think the issue with Week 7 and Week 8, I don't believe Tim Patrick played in those games. Tim Patrick did play Week 9.
Okay, so that opens things up.
You look at these passing attempts, over 40, almost 48 here against Atlanta. It's going to take him 40, 45 passes to get there. But at 254.5, I'm interested in it. I don't feel great. Give me Carson Wentz, give me Herbert, give me under Baker Mayfield. I don't really know if I'm comfortable with taking any of these passing numbers. But while we're talking about it, let's just look at the receiving totals in this game.
Yeah, I still definitely like. I like the Wentz. I like the Herbert more than I would like anything in this game.
I'm not seeing any receiving odds in this game.
That's weird.
I think that's because I know Jerry Jeudy's been questionable all week. He did log in some limiteds, but I think they're probably waiting for a more complete practice report here.
We just got Washington and Detroit. They must be loading on Saturdays now instead of on Fridays.
Getting smarter. So, yeah, still no Broncos, but since they just loaded, you said the Washington, Detroit, let's look at these numbers real quick. So Kenny Golladay, assuming he's out, the main stud of this fiesta here is going to be Terry McLaurin, 75.5. How are we feeling about Terry McLaurin at 75.5?
It's a high line, but I think if you look at Terry, you'd be surprised to see how many times he's hit the over on that one. He's been pretty impressive.
Alex Smith he's a competent quarterback. He can hit Terry McLaurin. We were liking Terry McLaurin with Dwayne Haskins, and we were liking him with Kyle Allen, so I don't see a change here. The last few games here, 115 yards, 90 yards, 74. So 1 out of the last 3 games he did not hit it, but again, 12 targets, 11 targets, 8 targets, 7 catches in 3 straight games. Mm-hmm. It's the Detroit Lions. Let's just take a quick look and see how many receiving yards they allow to the wide receiver position. So, okay, they're actually pretty decent here. It's actually I think the Lions are a funnel defense at this point.
Yeah, I think you want to look at those running backs.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, they're allowing about 171 receiving yards per game, but you think about the total pie of the receiving yards for the receivers in Washington, Terry McLaurin's probably over 50% of that. So if you take, if you times this by 2, that's still going to put Terry McLaurin over the 77-yard mark here that they have him at, or the 75-yard.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw a stat somewhere that showed that he is leading the NFL in yards, target share yard, percentage of yards.
Yeah, so I do feel pretty good about McLaurin in this one. I don't have any faith in the Lions receivers. Danny Amendola, 45.5. Marvin Jones, 48.5. Marvin Hall, 39.5. Anything on the Lions side for you?
The only thing that I would consider looking they don't even got TJ Hawk up yet. I would be looking at TJ Hawk to see what his numbers are coming at. But
and Washington's, I know in a PPR setting here, they are the best team or the toughest team for opposing wide receivers. They've allowed the second least amount of wide receiver yards here. So I don't want any
receptions. That's 10 receptions a game.
They are locked down it's the pass rush. They really limit the pass rush. They make teams have to dump it off to a running back a lot.
And we like Deandre Swift this week.
We might be here. Let's take a look at it. I know for sure the other weakness of the Washington football team defense is they do allow quite a bit of tight end points, which would favor TJ Hawkinson. So if he comes in tomorrow, I guess let's talk about that for a minute. What line would TJ Hawkinson need to be set at for you to be like, that's too high?
Sure. Let's see the numbers here. Let's kind of digest it as we go along.
You want to look at the tight end points here?
Yeah.
So let's see. So receiving yards to the tight end, Washington down here at 464. Let me just divide that by 8 real quick. So Washington football team is allowing 58 yards to the tight end per game right now. If it's anything in that 50 to 55 range, I think I might take it. And again, no Kenny Golladay in this one. And let's just pull up TJ's game log.
I bet you they're going to set that might be mid to upper 40s, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 49.5, anything below that, I think that's one I'm probably going to put on the website for sure. And then if we just look at what TJ's been doing the last few games here, so 39, not the greatest against Minnesota, but that was, I don't remember when Matt Stafford got yanked out of that one, but you do like the targets here. He hit 65, 59 the 2 weeks before, and then some little bit of a down couple weeks here, but then 53, 62, 56. So I think the odds are in his favor to go over 50 yards. If there's anything below 50 for him on this website, I think we're going to smash that and put that on the website for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm just going to hit refresh since they seem to be popping stuff in right now. And I guess at the top of your head, were there any games that you wanted to make sure that we looked into for specific matchups? Or do we want to kind of pivot and start looking at some of the rushing totals?
Yeah, I mean, I think we, of the games that are in the system here, Baltimore Ravens, New England Patriots, I don't think we really love anything there. I see Jacoby Myers at 49.5 yards. That's kind of nice. And
we did say number one corner for the Ravens is going to be out. Jimmy, what's his name?
Jimmy Smith?
Jimmy Smith, yeah. Jimmy Smith's doubtful at this point, so I don't think we're going to see him. Which, Jacoby Myers, let's just take a look at it real quick. He dominated last weekend. He caught 12 of 14 targets. He had 160-some yards.
1 billion yards.
2 billion. And they got him at a modest 49.5. And he's really the only game in town. Cam Newton's going to lock on to him. And if you tell me Jacoby's getting 10 targets, I think he's catching 6 or 7 of those, and he's probably catching them at 8 to 10 yards at least a clip. So I guess are we going to want to put him on the website? I don't know yet, but we'll put him on the list here and talk about him or think about him later. Mark Andrews, Miles Boykin, Willie Snead, Ravens. No, thank you. Nothing. We don't want anything.
I
think that sums it up.
Yeah.
You said too much. And then 49ers and the New Orleans Saints real quick. Again, Deebo Samuel's out in this one. They don't have any 49ers players in here yet, so we only have the Saints to look at. But Alvin Kamara, 40.5. Sanders, 40.5. Traquan, who looked pretty good last week, 24.5. And then is it a Michael Thomas bounce-back game, 71.5 here? Anything for the Saints?
Yeah, Michael Thomas has yet to kind of have that first Michael Thomas game. So against the 49ers, the banged-up 49ers can't get healthy, can't get it right. Is this a game where you just say, all right, Michael Thomas, time to go put up one of your patented 200-yard games and get back on track as we look to start dominating and be the favorites in the NFC?
And, I mean, I'm just curious because these two teams played one of the best regular season games of last year. And
that was a good game.
There's no Richard Sherman this week.
Still no Richard Sherman, so.
Right, and they just said that it's going to be a couple more weeks yet. So you see last year, Michael Thomas, 11 for 134 and a touchdown. I mean, if he's probably not – the thing is, like, this team is a little bit more well-balanced than they were last year. They had to force-feed Michael Thomas targets. Now they got Emmanuel Sanders. And look at Miles Sanders on the other team last year.
There it is.
Having a touchdown. Is this the potential revenge game at 40.5 for Miles Sanders?
40.5 feels like a pretty good number for sure.
That one seems more fun to me than betting the Michael Thomas 71.5. I think Sanders might be – I don't know. That seems like a pretty average floor for him. You can catch that, 3 for 40 seems like a line for him.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of interested in that. I'll click on Emmanuel Sanders here. I'm just trying to count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can probably click on 3 more of these guys here.
Well, we can probably take, in my opinion, we could probably take Herbs off. If we're going to go Wentz over Herbs, that kind of lets us breathe a little bit. Are there any of these other ones that were kind of like, honestly, I feel like I like the rest of these lines pretty good.
I wish I could move these and filter them because I feel great about Mike Davis, 35.5. I feel great about Carson Wentz, 250. I feel great about Miles Sanders at 17.5. I feel pretty good about Reynolds at 45.5. So between the fifth guy here, is it Mike Williams? Is it Baker Mayfield? Is it Jacoby or Emmanuel Sanders? Like, which one would you feel the best about?
That's a great question.
Or maybe we can find some of these rushing overs here to maybe, make sure that.
Yeah, but every week all I want is a Antonio Gibson rushing receiving yard combo, and I never get it. Is this the week? Is it in there? Did they give it to us?
Rushing and receiving here.
I saw his receiving was at 15.5, which seems pretty low. God,
they only got DeAndre Swift here.
So his receiving is at 15.5, which is typically low for Antonio Gibson. Last week, they obviously got in a position where they needed to throw the ball.
I got one for you. His name is Aaron Jones. He's at 94.5 rushing and receiving yards.
All right, that seems pretty good.
112. That one feels pretty.
Against the Jags.
Let's see the Jaguars here against so just for rushing yards against Jacksonville here, they have allowed basically about 100 yards per game to the running backs on the ground. And then through the air, they actually seem kind of decent here. 354, let me divide that quick by 8. So we're already including 100 yards on the ground. You add in 44 yards. So they allow 144 yards just to the running backs. But we will see Jamal Williams in this one. But you got to think, Aaron Jones, he didn't play a full amount of snaps last weekend, but he looked pretty spry in those snaps. I think this is going to be a game where they're going to make sure he gets kind of rolling back into things. So 94.5 is interesting. I don't know if that one feels too high, or he could get that just with rushing totals.
It seems like 100-yard Aaron Jones week. For sure.
Yeah, so I'm just going to click him in there, and we can kind of reevaluate him in the end. And I guess for other rushing and receiving totals here, you got Mike Davis at 89.5. We liked him at 35.5 for his over in receiving yards. Mm-hmm. He's 89.5, a little too tall. He could get that just with the receiving totals. He had that. Yeah. He had 7 for 84, 86 yards back in week 2.
Yeah, I think the 89 is a decent number. The problem is the rushing yards probably won't be there, so then you're banking on a big receiving day. Yeah, why not just take the receiving over at 35.5?
Yeah, we'll call that a day there. We got Duke Johnson, 89.5. I don't know if I feel great about that. Miles Sanders, 82.5. What the hell? Do we?
That's free money. I think we like that better than. The receiving is so low, but if Miles Sanders plays, he gets 100 yards.
Do you take both?
You could.
Just out of curiosity.
Well, you might as well take Miles Sanders with the better odds at 82.5 yards, betting wise.
Sure. And then just I wanted to hit because that was the Boston Scott game, Thursday Night Footballs. I keep getting refreshed here. So here we go. Thursday Night Football against the Giants. Let's see what Boston Scott was able to do. So he rushed for 46 yards. He also caught 46 yards, so that puts him at 92. You got to think Miles Sanders can do a little bit more than what Boston Scott can do on the same amount of touches. So we might, should we remove 17.5 here and go with the 82.5?
I mean, at minus 112, that gives us a little bit more Coors Light money. So
I think I feel pretty. I still feel pretty good.
I feel good about that line for sure. I mean, the Giants still give up ground. They give up yards on the ground.
We talked about the Giants. They give up the most wide running back receiver points here through the air, and they are decent against the running backs. But you got to think Sanders can hit 30, 40 yards on the ground and hit another 30, 40 through the air to get him at least close to the 82. So I think I feel pretty good about that. Yep. Some of the other games here, they do have DeAndre Swift at 65.5. It should be a bigger receiving day for him. I don't expect a lot of success on the ground.
This is the first time that I was listening to Sanders, and he actually sounds like
he sounds ready to roll.
100%. Like here we go. Like the last time when he came back, the confidence level wasn't there. So now he's like, I feel great. I'm ready to go.
He's ready to go. The Eagles know they need.
Eagles can soar, man.
They know they need to win this game. So I think it feels pretty good for Sanders this week.
Yep.
And then just kind of moving down the list here, Buffalo Bills, Arizona Cardinals. You got Zach Moss chilling at 50.5, Singletary 48.5. What about the Singletary under on this one? Anything on the under 48.5 yards?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I have no conviction on what the offense is going to look like this week for Arizona and Buffalo.
So at 48.5 yards, he had 34 total yards last weekend. He did rush for 86 and caught 6 the week before. And then you're looking at week 6 and 7 here. You had 29 rushing yards. You add the 18 there. That's going to put him at 47. Kansas City, he only had 45 combined yards. Tennessee, he only had 33 yards. So there's kind of a trend here where he's not really getting a lot of touches, 48.5 yards. I think I might need to see one more week of this Zach Moss Singletary split before I'm interested in it. But
yeah, that's fair.
I have in my head, I'm not going to do it, but I'm probably thinking he's going to be under 48.5 in this one. And then Josh Kelly, I don't feel comfortable with the Chargers backs. Alvin Kamara, 97.5.
Yeah, he could get there.
He could get there. I don't feel great about it. And then Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown. Are you confident in either of these guys against Seattle?
No, not at all.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. We've been going on for almost an hour here. I think we have enough to look through here for our top 5 picks here. And then I guess let's just kind of pivot, and we're going to be talking about our super risky plays of the week. We did say at the top of the show that Jesse won his big risky money special here with Gabe Davis last weekend. I missed on Jordan Akins, but the week before I did hit on Albert Okwuegbunam. So on these kind of riskier touchdown bets, we are 2 of 3 on the season. So we're going to kind of just roll down here, and I guess we're going to lower the bar a little bit this week. I would say anything plus 300, we will consider a risky bet. So looking at the Jaguars and the Packers here, it does say any other Green Bay Packers player here. So that could be a defensive touchdown. That could be anybody not listed on this list here. So it's basically that's betting on a defensive touchdown, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then essentially, Chris Conley, 325. We did say Laviska Shenault is out. You're betting on Aaron Rodgers touchdown, probably not. Keelan Cole at plus 400.
Aaron Rodgers rushing touchdown versus Jacksonville. He's always good for a couple.
Yeah, I could see doing it. And it's going to be a cool game. We'll see what happens there. I really don't think this one's probably going to be a very top-heavy kind of game. Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, James Robinson. All of my touchdown bets are going to be probably DJ Chark and up here. So I'm not really feeling like there's a risky play here for us to look at.
No, probably not.
Unless you want to call Mercedes Lewis. So I try to listen to Aaron Rodgers whenever he goes live. I think it was on Wednesday that he went live, and they kind of asked him about the game that he had a couple of years ago against this team. And they were talking to him about, his 4 and 5 and 6 touchdown games where the offense was kind of rolling. And he's like, it wouldn't surprise me if Mercedes Lewis had one of those 3 or 4 touchdown games this weekend. So maybe just keep an eye on it. I'm not going to bet on it, but if Mercedes Lewis if he scores, I'll smile a little bit there. just because Rodgers hinted at it this press conference. But moving down here to Tampa Bay and Carolina, if we start at 300 or above, again, it's asking us for a defensive player, or is it Scotty Miller?
What's going on with Curtis Samuel at 375 here?
Is that a one that you want to put on the site here?
I'm possible. He's been scoring touchdowns at a high rate.
I think it's been 4 straight games. Let's just double check that. So 3 straight games. He's gotten 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks here, so he's hot. Getting more involved in the receiving game. And now that Christian McCaffrey's out, we're going to see him again get more than, maybe 3 or 4 touches here. He has rushed for 2 touchdowns this year. So it's I guess as of right now, that's the one that we think could happen.
375 seems like, they got DJ Moore at 200. I think I like Samuel to score over DJ Moore.
Yeah, and then 375, that's a pretty good return there. So I think Curtis Samuel is probably our favorite so far. We'll just keep moving down the list here. I don't think anybody else interests you.
No.
Unless you want to call Tom Brady rushing sneak.
Yeah, it's always in the cards.
Mm-hmm. So Texans, Cleveland Browns, starting at 300. You got Rashard Biggins here at 300. David Njoku, 325. Randall Cobb, 375. Do I go back to the well with Jordan Akins, Darren Fells, maybe one of the tight ends?
Nothing here is really calling my
Yeah, I don't like that game in general. Moving on down here to the Eagles and the Giants, you got Alshon Jeffrey, 300. Boston Scott, Golden Tate, Greg Ward, Richard Rodgers. This one's kind of a tough for a risky play. I'm seeing Sterling Shepard 260, Daniel Jones 260, Jalen Reagor 260.
Reagor 260 is interesting if you're to lower the bar a little bit.
Yeah, we might. It seems weird. It seems like these touchdown odds are a little bit stiffer than they have been the last couple of weeks. So I think I might allow a guy like Jalen Reagor to be put on as a risky play. But let's just kind of keep moving down the list here. We have Washington, Detroit, starting at 325. Marvin Hall, J.D. McKissick, Steven Sims. Do we bet on any defensive touchdowns in this one?
I don't know. Would you ever bet a defensive touchdown? That'd be a ball. That would be spicy indeed.
The one to do right now would be Miami.
Yeah, probably.
That would be the
J.D. McKissick is kind of interesting. He hasn't really found the end zone, but he's been getting work.
Yeah. I don't know, but typically when they get to the red zone, man, they put in
Gibson in there.
And of course, he's got plus 125 odds here, so that does not qualify for us. Moving on down to Buffalo and Arizona, do we have another Gabriel Davis sighting in the end zone this weekend?
475, dude.
475. He's probably our leader on the touchdown risky odds here. What do you think?
I would let you take it on that one. 2 weeks in a row on Miguel. He's truly going to be Miguel Evans. He's got to score touchdowns.
At the moment right now, what did we say? What was the first one that we liked?
Curtis Samuel at 375.
Okay, so he's tied with Curtis Samuel at this moment. So we'll kind of keep moving down the list here. I think we're going to get to someone that we like in the Seahawks game. But chilling I guess we got the Chargers and the Dolphins chilling here. Is Tua Tagovailoa going to rush for one? Is Herbert going to rush for one? Is it Matt Collins? Josh Kelly.
Wow. They hate Josh Kelly.
400.
Now this is interesting.
You calling a Jalen Guyton bomb? 450?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Wow.
Jalen Guyton.
So they're basically saying they don't think a Chargers running back will score a touchdown.
So it's been a while since Guyton scored. He's due, man. Yeah, they don't like any of these Charger running backs here. The highest one is Troy May Hope, which seems backwards.
Seems odd.
He's probably their best receiving back.
Yeah.
Balaj got the goal line carry last week, and he's at 400.
Kelly at 350. That's
weird. Very weird.
That's an interesting one. Something to look at.
Fun part about Jakeem Grant, he's going to be their number 2 receiver this weekend. He can also score on a punt return or a kick return for a touchdown if you're feeling risky. Just throwing it out there. It seems like the funny thing about our guy, Justin Herbert, is he's going to find the most obscure player to throw a touchdown to, whether it's Gabe Neighbors, whether that is Donald Parham, Joe Reed, Tyron Johnson. He seems to find at least one guy a week to throw a random touchdown to. And because I do my snap counts, Gabe Neighbors. He is probably the highest fantasy points per play per snap this year. The guy plays 1 or 2 snaps, scores a touchdown, goes home. Like that's pretty much
Gabe Neighbors.
Scores a touchdown and leaves. That's pretty much what he does. Moving on to the Broncos and the Raiders here. I guess we had a couple at 285 here. Nelson Aguilar has been pretty hot for touchdowns. Tim Patrick as well, 285. KJ Hamler. I think I'd consider one of these guys at 285.
Yeah, they all seem. Hamler seems due for a big game.
Yeah, I think he had 6 for 75 last week. So he caught the touchdown the week before to win the game against who did they play? The Chargers. And then Tim Patrick, man, it just seems like he's going to connect on some deep shots here, and he just scored the touchdown last week at 285. I'm kind of interested there. Nothing really else sticks out.
No,
guys.
I think Bryan Edwards gets his first career TD. Could
be. I'm trying to think anybody else here. What about our boy Alec Engel? Shout out Bayport High School. +1.
Shout out.
I might put $1 on Alec Engel for fun.
Throw $1.
Throw $1 on there. Win 16. Go to Arby's. Call it a day.
Yeah.
We got the 49ers and the New Orleans Saints here, starting at about 275. JaMychal Hasty. Any other Saints player? Do we think the Saints defense can score against Nick Mullins here at +300?
There's potential.
It's in New Orleans too, so I could see it. They have been allowing more fans, and I think they allow about 6,000 to 10,000 people in right now. So Saints could have a little bit of a fun time there. Otherwise, you got Traquan Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Richie James, Taysom Hill. We feeling a Taysom Hill touchdown at 450, or do you like Jordan Reed, Ross Dwelley?
Jordan Reed is pretty low. Dwelley and Reed are pretty low.
It's very low here.
Troutman's been getting more involved, +600.
Yeah, for some reason I know it was a blowout, but Jared Cook got the fewest tight end snaps among 3 other Saints tight ends. I thought that was a little strange.
Definitely odd.
But yeah, nothing really sticking out in these touchdown odds, man.
No, nothing.
Okay, here we go. Cincinnati Bengals, Pittsburgh Steelers. We should probably double back. Like, are you cool to go on for it? Like, we've been going on for 1 hour and 6. Are you still good for a little bit more yet?
Yeah, we can get groovy with it.
All right. I told you before we even talked about or even looked at some of these props, I think I already knew who my guy was going to be this week. It's going to be Auden Tate for the Cincinnati Bengals, chilling at 475. You can throw on the Steelers, man. You can throw
475.
This guy caught all 7 of his targets for, I think it was 65 yards the week before. He had his highest snap rate of the season. I could see him getting a one-on-one coverage near the red zone and cashing in on that. Any other numbers here? We got AJ Green, 275. James Washington, 325. Is Burrow going to rush for one?
I doubt it. On Steelers defense. James Washington is fun. If any of those Steelers guys gets hurt, he pretty much slips right in there.
Right. I don't know. I'm feeling good about Auden Tate in this one at 475. We do expect the Steelers to kind of have their way with the Bengals defense, which means Joe Burrow is going to throw the ball another 45 times in this one. And I do like Auden Tate, what he's been doing the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Seahawks and the Rams, starting at about 300. We got our guy, Josh Reynolds. Is this the one? Is Josh Reynolds at +300 the guy to save the planet here?
Josh Reynolds +300. I think we like it.
I think that's the one that I like the most right now is Josh Reynolds. You're gonna take over his 45.5. You're gonna cash in on him when he scores a 46-yard touchdown all in one play, and you can go to bed.
Sleep good.
Tight ends: Tyler Higbee 300, Gerald Everett 375. I don't really feel good about anything else here besides Josh Reynolds at 300.
Yeah, I think that's the one from this game for sure.
I guess we don't really talk about the touchdown odds for like our top 5 picks, but is there anybody, if you had to pick someone that you know is going to score 100% this week, we could put that on the top 5 list?
Yeah.
Whether that is Cam Newton to score a rushing touchdown at +145. That's what it's going to be, right?
Probably.
Cam Newton at +145. I could see that happening.
You took that last week, right?
You got 2 of them last. Yeah, I took that easily last weekend, and I should have thought about doing I should have done that one, and then I should have did the 2 touchdowns or more just to just to see. I should have rolled into it.
Why not?
But, as far as other touchdowns in this game, you got Jacoby Myers at 300, Damian Harris, Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards. I can't confidently bet on any of the skill players here to score.
No.
And then you got the Vikings and the Bears in here.
Well, Monday nighter.
You have Dalvin Cook at minus 240. Allen Robinson probably has a pretty good chance to score at 130 here. Maybe even a guy like Jimmy Graham at plus 220. I could see that happening. Anthony Miller, Darnell Mooney, these guys would call for risky picks. Do we feel anything about those guys? I think Anthony Miller is going to score. I could see that being on my list.
Yeah, Irv Smith plus 400.
Probably going to stay out of the Monday night game for the website here. But
yeah, these are the games you come back to if you had a nice Sunday. You won some money. Come back
here. But I just want to kind of quickly look at the top here. They got Aaron Jones at minus 335 to score. Woo! That's happening.
That's a lock.
Devontae Adams minus 200 to score. James Robinson minus 106 to score. Interesting. I'm just kind of looking for any other obvious players to score here. Mike Davis at 115. Nothing else really sticks out. Duke Johnson, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I don't really feel confident in that game at all. Eagles, the Giants. Miles Sanders is favored to score here. Otherwise, I can't really trust any of the other guys here. Maybe, would Dallas Goedert qualify for a risky touchdown play at 240?
At 240, I mean,
we'll allow it.
You're more than doubling your, it's a pretty good return.
I'm trying to look here. Antonio Gibson's plus 125, man.
Against the Lions? I think I like that.
But that would almost qualify for one of our top 5 picks.
That could almost qualify for a site.
That one feels pretty good that it's going to happen to me.
Maybe plus 125. I like it. That could be our fifth option.
I'm gonna check it and we'll put that on the list here. I think I'm a lot of check marks, but Terry McLaurin at 160. I might throw like a half a unit on that one just because I love the guy.
He's fun.
And then
John Murray, Chase,
Cardinals, maybe DeAndre Hopkins at plus 115 to score.
He's due. He's due for a big week.
Game last weekend that I could see him kind of just blowing it up here and just beating Trey White.
Yep.
And then Keenan Allen plus 140 here. Interesting.
Wow. They do not have good odds on anybody to score in this game. That's
because both teams have no like go-to guy for touchdowns. They're busy throwing the ball to Jalen Guyton, friggin' Arnold and Gabe Neighbors down here.
Gabe Neighbors.
So Josh Jacobs is favored to score. I can't confidently say anybody else in this Broncos-Raiders game as well.
No, that's tough.
And I think that pretty much does it for the touchdowns here. James Conner's favored to score. Joe Mixon at plus 160. I don't think he's going to play. Giovanni Yard Dog here at plus 190. Maybe. Maybe.
Stumble and bumble.
Okay, so if the Bengals, say Joe Burrow throws 2 touchdowns, who catches the touchdowns?
Oh, if he throws 2 touchdowns, I feel like Tyler Boyd's probably in the mark for one. And then you want your boy Auden Tate to get one.
What about T. Biggins?
Yeah, T. Biggins. That's the thing. They have good receivers. Any of those receivers can score, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. Auden Tate, I don't know. At 475, it's a very risky play. I don't know if I feel confident about it. We might have to – maybe we'll let these we'll get the top 5 updated there, but we'll kind of consider our touchdown plays and we'll upload those. I think for sure we'll upload those tomorrow morning. But I kind of want to also see if we get some more updates in tomorrow morning. So I think we'll double back and check in with each other on that.
I think that's fair.
We've been going live for an hour and 13 minutes. Any other parting thoughts on these prop bets for this weekend?
There's a lot of interesting games this week, but not a lot of strong convictions from my part, as the Masters is going on this week. So, sometimes you shift your focus a little bit. That said, I think there's a lot of fun matchups. Arizona-Buffalo should be a really great game to watch.
Off the top of your head, who throws the most passing touchdowns this week?
I don't know why my mind keeps going to Carson Wentz, but it shouldn't.
Ooh, what's he at? He's only at 1.5 touchdowns here.
Minus 137.
So people are liking that.
What do you think? Who's your touchdown leader on the week?
Probably Jared Goff. They got him at 2.5 here. That's plus 162. I could see him hitting 3. That's pretty good odds too. I wouldn't mind putting a unit on that.
How about Russ? Over 2.5. I mean,
160.
Those are some interesting numbers.
Those are good odds. I like those. One of them's gonna hit 3, right?
Yeah.
One of them's hitting 3. Trying to think anybody else here. Teddy Bridgewater at 1.5. I could see him hitting 2. I don't care about Baker or Watson there.
Nope.
Again, Carson Wentz, it's kind of been beaten up to minus 137. Otherwise, Alex Smith, 1.5 to get 2, maybe. Ooh, I did have a take on this one. Logan Thomas, I believe he was a long-time Detroit Lion. I don't know if it's called a revenge game, but I'm just curious what our boy Logan Thomas's touchdown odds are against his old team. Plus 225. I can see it happening. I don't really feel great about it, but just something to keep an eye on.
Maybe he hits the yards.
If Alex Smith is going to throw 2 touchdowns, one's going to Mclaurin and one's going to Logan Thomas. So for as far as yards, he's at 31.5.
Seems pretty good.
And he's been consistently their number 2 or number 3 targeted player, about 4 or 5 per game. But I don't know, man. Anything else on your mind here before we get out of here? You're probably watching some golf the rest of today. Anything else happening today in Chicago?
Today in Chicago, it looks gloomy and it looks like it's going to rain anytime here. But the Colts won on Thursday. They have first place of the AFC South, so we're enjoying that. Packers are looking to get back to their winning ways, continue holding down the NFC North.
I'm excited because we haven't seen this team healthy as a whole offense in a while. So Allen Lazard, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, everything's kind of coming together. David Bakhtiari's back this weekend too. So we don't need to do much. I just want to see kind of everybody eats kind of thing. You know, it's going to be old country buffet down in Green Bay.
I'll be curious to see the Packers without these corners.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of fun too because, I'm going to be watching that game exclusively. I'll get a chance to see Jake Luton and see if he has a chance to maybe be at least a quarterback too in Superflex leagues the rest of the way. I can see them. I don't know. I like Gardner Minshew, but I think at this point they're content with saying, hey, we're taking a quarterback next year. So might as well get some tape on Luton for the next – give Luton at least a month. Give him 4 games. If it's a disaster, go back to Minshew. If it's not a disaster, just let them arm wrestle for the last 2 games. I don't know. What are you going to do, you know? But
can Minshew use his mustache to arm wrestle? Do we allow that?
We would allow it. I think if Luton would have to grow one. I don't know if he's capable of doing so, but we could have a mustache off.
Nice.
But I don't know, man. That's going to do it for Week 10, our NFL player props. Thank you, Jesse, for hanging out with me today. You can follow him on Twitter at theFellowJGM. I am on Twitter at theFellowKGB. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. That's where I'm going to upload. There's a link in the description below for the YouTube video. Check out the prop bets. I'll be uploading those in a couple minutes here, our top 5, and then we're going to do our 2 risky picks there. So we'll have 7 for you to look at. But again, for Jesse, we are the Fantasy Fellowship. Thanks for checking out the Fantasy Fellow Show. Have a good rest of your weekend and enjoy the games. Good luck. Peace.
Take care.